so much for joining us during this momentary distraction of simple amusements and magic. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Faust and Company. My name is Chris Herren, and I am your host today. It's always good to have you. In fact, I'm going to look over in the comments section. I already see Micah out there. Micah, hello to you, my friend. It's always good to see you. And if you guys haven't seen his show, Daytime with Didi at Night, it's a wonderful show on Zoom, so check it out. And thank you again, Micah, for being here. So you guys, happy Friday. I hope everyone's Friday is off to a good start. And so today is actually the first episode of something that we are going to call Theory and Philosophy. And some of you may be wondering what that is. Well, just a little brief summary of how I got inspired to do that. On my first show, or the shows that you normally see, we usually just have time to meet the person and see a few tricks and whatnot. And so I think I wanted to dive more into the theatrical approaches of a performer and his personal take on what magic is, things that I, as a magic student, can kind of learn from. And maybe some of you out there might be interested in subjects like that too, but all the while to make it fun as well. So on these episodes for Theory and Philosophy, we really dive into the minds of the performers. And so check this out. It is our new thing called Theory and Philosophy. So once again, Theory and Philosophy. I see Trent is out there. Hey, thank you, Trent. We need to have you back on the show. Let me pull up your comment right there. Thank you so much, Trent. It's always good to see you out there. Yeah, so I can see a little bit more people have just tuned in. And so just to recap, today is a different episode, and we try to we're trying to have a little bit more discussion on people's approaches, or at least personal approaches. Most of the time, everyone has a different approach to magic, and I just love learning from. So today we have our first guest for Theory and Philosophy, and our first guest has 20 years of experience in the corporate world with corporate clients such as General Mills, Petco, Lowe's, and many more. And he specifically trains and coaches and mentors people on the subject matter of the magician, specifically the magician archetype, and how that can be applied in daily life and leadership. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you all to be introduced to my friend and corporate presenter and innovator, BRADEN Daniels.
Hey, welcome everybody. You know, magic and magicians are all about transformation. And what I do is I help people transform and also break through barriers. Check out this rubber band. Now, this rubber band is on my index finger and my middle finger. You can see that here. And if you look closely, we have, oh, what is that? That's a lemniscate. That's an infinity symbol. We'll be talking about that later. I'm going to take this red one and wrap it around so this white one cannot break free. In fact, we're going to go and push this down so you can see that that is really on my index finger and my middle finger. Now, magic teaches us that we can jump through barriers with a little bit of magic and a little bit of mentorship. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Braden. Welcome to the show. It has been a while since we've seen each other, but thank you so much for coming on our new episode, Theory and Philosophy, Braden. How are you today, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, better than I deserve. Thank you, my friend Chris, for having me on here. I'm excited to talk about today's topic, the Magician Archetype.
The Magician, yes, the Magician Archetype. And I have a lot of questions for you, Braden. But before we go, I know that there are a lot of people out there tuning in. So today is a different episode. And I thought it was appropriate to have you come on because I did see your presentation on Mystery School Monday with Jeff McBride. And I was so intrigued by your presentation and your thoughts that I wanted you to come on. So just another thank you for coming on, my friend. Now, before we get on to the more deeper aspect of magic, I would like to know, Braden, what is it that you do for these companies? Could you give us just a little glimpse of your role with these corporate companies?
So my role is specifically leadership, and I come into companies and I work with their teams on the powers of leadership, the powers of magic. So I take the effects of magic, like making something appear, making something disappear, inverting something, levitating something, and I take those effects and I teach those philosophies to business leaders who are trying to make things appear within their business unit, or create a better culture for their teams. There are many aspects of magic that can empower and that can transform business. And if you want to, I couldn't be more happy to bring magic to that world because there's a lot in business that needs to be reclaimed. In movies, Chris, if you've seen movies where it's like the wasteland motif starts off, the kingdom is, disheveled, it's deserted. And over the course of the film or the movie, it gets reclaimed. And usually the ruler is wounded and the wounded ruler gets healed. And then that heals the land. So in many ways, mythically and archetypally, that's what I do for businesses and leaders. I also work with leaders outside of their business. So if you want to reach out to me and have a mentor, have a leadership Merlin, that's a partner in your success, that's outside of your company dynamic, that's also a good thing. I have many clients that do that.
Yeah. So it's great to know, Braden, sometimes a lot of the people watching are more likely magicians. But from what I'm hearing from your presentation, this applies to non-magicians as well. And am I correct in saying that, Braden?
Absolutely. I think when you look at archetypes, and Carl Jung was one of the first to sort of classify the archetypes, but there are many other thought leaders in that space. More recently, Joseph Campbell, as well as Carol S. Pearson, who had a wonderful book called The Hero Within. And she's had several books since, all taking that archetype of the magician and archetypes in general and bringing them into the business world. And archetypes are very interesting. So let's just do some spitballing here. Yeah. Nike is the hero archetype. If that brand is a hero brand, because everything about how it presents itself, forget the products themselves, but how they present themselves is making you the hero. And Jeep is another one, Chris, where it's not a hero brand, it's an explorer brand. It's the adventurer brand, right? Or the archetype, I should say. So
Yes.
there are several archetypes: caretaker. There's all the every person, the every woman, the every man archetype. There's lots of archetypes that we live, and like our mutual mentor has taught us, they can be worn and put on like masks and taken off at any moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Braden, there has been one archetype that has been brought up throughout this conversation, and I'm going to pull a little picture up, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Just a second here, Braden.
This is one of my favorites. It's Mickey. It's Mickey in Fantasia. He is the quintessential sorcerer's apprentice. Now he's forming the archetypal pose of the magician, which is wonderful. So he's got one hand to the sky, one hand down below, as above, so below. That's the same thing with your life, with my life, with anyone who's watching us today and in the chat. It's in any company. It's as above, so below. As the leadership, as the corporate culture, so below, so to the customers. So there's a lot of different imagery there. And one is the infinity symbol. And what that tells us is that your potential is not only unknown, it's unknowable. It's not only unlimited, you don't really know how far you could go.
Right.
And that comes to us not just from here, but it's corroborated with actual science. Carol Dweck wrote a great book called The Growth Mindset, and it took the science behind how we learn and grow over time, that in fact our intelligence is not fixed, it's infinite, and it's been here all along.
So, Braden, just a little bit to dive deeper into the magician archetype. So why is it so important? What sort of qualities, or I know we talked about the powers of the magician. Now, these are metaphorical powers. I mean, you know, for people out there just tuning in, this is not a class on tarot, but
right.
It is the symbolism behind what a magician is. So to you, Braden, when you see that symbol, how could you summarize what that is and how a non-magician should take it?
So the magician is all about transformation, and it's reminding us that we have inside of us a magician to create transformation in our lives. We can reclaim things. We can co-create things. That's a big part of what the magician teaches us. And we can name things. We can identify things. And going back to Mickey, here's a great thing here: the Sorcerer's Apprentice. One of the things that that the magician does is the magician, as an archetype, initiates.
Yes.
Provides initiation. So there are people in your life, there are people in the viewers' lives right now who have initiated them into greater success. And that's exactly what the magician archetype does. And Mickey earlier with Mickey Mouse, the Sorcerer's Apprentice. I mean, that's, if you guys remember Fantasia, Mickey was not initiated yet. He was told to do a task, which is the Eastern philosophy of carry wood, chop water, carry wood. And he was supposed to take buckets of water and do his job. Well, he wasn't initiated in the magical arts, just like many of us aren't initiated in some of the stuff we think we're initiated in. Our ego gets in the way. And that's what happened with Mickey. And he tries to use the powers before he's fully initiated into that full power. So it's all about empowerment.
Yes. What a great lesson that is. You know, we sort of take for granted, because I do have the same figure at the house with Mickey and his hat wielding a wand. And this wand just does so many things. But it's a great point you bring up. Even in a magician, I guess the metaphor or the symbolism of a magician is that there's always a teacher that teaches the apprentice, in this case, Mickey. So what you're saying is, Braden, is that in the business world, mentorship, it's somewhat the same. So if people are mentored in business as much as they are in magic. So, and is that what your leadership programs do, or make an attempt to do, is to somewhat mentor or coach or kind of push people on a certain path?
Yeah, that's actually one of the major aspects of what I do is personal one-to-one mentoring with leaders and entrepreneurs all over across industry, across ethnicity, across gender, non-gender, everybody. We're inclusive, and we help everybody be empowered through mentorship. And there are 6 gifts of mentorship. One is the time that you give, and so that's valuable, but the quality of time, which is your presence, and then also the questions that you ask. Your example is another. The 5th one is your wisdom, because you've been somewhere, you've done something. And the last thing that you give as a mentor is your encouragement. And I really encourage everyone here who's watching now and later to be a mentor to somebody that at any stage that you're at, you can help somebody else. And I encourage people to do that. But one of the reasons, Chris, that you brought up is because we have blind spots. So we're going to do a little blind spot test with everybody.
Okay.
If you could, everyone just go ahead and put out your left index finger. And now what you're going to do, your left index finger, and then you're going to close your left eye. So close your left eye, and you're going to look with your right eye at the tip of this finger.
Okay.
And you're not going to take it off of the tip of the finger. What you're going to do is stay staring at that as you bring up your other hand with your other index next to it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now what I want you to do is still look at this finger.
Okay.
As you slowly move your right finger away, there'll be a point where the tip of your finger disappears in your periphery. Yep, bring it back. That might have been too far.
Okay. Okay.
So bring it back, and remember, you're staring at this tip.
At this left. Yeah.
At this one with your right eye that's open. Okay. And your right hand is going to slowly go away, and you're going to, out of the corner of your eye, you're going to notice that your tip of your finger disappears. For me, it's right here.
Ah, yes, right there.
Yeah, it disappears. So I hope everyone can try that out there. And what's happening there? Okay, so we talked about that. You asked me about mentorship.
Yes.
We all have blind spots. And one of the things that mentors do is it helps fill in those blind spots. Now, that blind spot is because your optic nerve in your actually sends the signal back to the wire that sends it back to your brain has to carry that information. So your mind deletes that, just like it deletes the tip of your nose, right? So it shapes us. So one of the illusions, you want to talk about philosophy, go deep with some magicians here. If you know Bob Neal, put a 3 in the chat. One of his major illusions in his book, Celebrating Illusions, is what I see is. And that's a major illusion, and it's an illusion that we have. That's an illusion that leaders have as well.
What I see is. Now, I do have a question for you, Braden. You mentioned that, some of these clients come for mentorship. I think anytime someone approaches mentorship, they have an objective in mind. Could you tell us what are some of these clients? What do they look for? They know that you're a magician, and your approach is relating magician topics. What are some of these sort of objectives that these clients have when they seek your help as an individual?
Yeah. So as an individual, they really want to get ahead in their career. That's just bar none number one, career development. They can be in the tech industry. They can be in the retail industry. They can be in the restaurant industry. They've seen that they've come to the understanding that they want to get ahead, whether it's they want to get promoted or they want to go to a different company. They're in this weird space where they want to transform, or they know they need to transform. So that liminal space, right? The space between, which is where the magician walks, in between, the space between worlds. Yes. And many of them have recognized that there's a space that they want to walk between, but they don't have a guide to walk through those worlds. And that's where I come in to help them. So career growth and just leadership development, because, let's just face it, audience, right? we get initiated into leadership based on, whatever boss we had, right? So that could have been not the greatest boss. And I'll actually, 58%, according to a Gallup poll, 58% of employees trust a stranger more than their own boss. So,
Absolutely.
so yeah, go ahead.
If anyone's out there who has questions for Braden, please drop them in the comments and ask away. We have Braden for a limited time, so I'm going to start diving into some of these questions with him, because it has interested me with at least for a non-magician, this idea of a magician and its metaphor of being able to transform. It's as if these non-magicians would like to transform their lives in a way. And I think that's a great concept that you have. Now, outside of the magician, Braden, is there any other symbols that you use from the magical world to kind of guide them and sort of relate them to their journey in this whole goal of leadership?
Well, in fact, I do. If you look closely at the magician on the table, and even on, if you want, Chris, you can pull up Mickey.
Yes.
You'll see that there are 4 symbols. Now, Mickey's holding one of them in his hand, which is the wand. But oh yeah, he's got all 4 there. So he's got a coin, a cup, a sword, and a wand. And those 4 symbols actually relate directly to the 4 elements. So, so for example, the sword is the air element, right? So the air element, as I use it in business or for anyone, is communication, right? So how well are you communicating? The phrase, the pen is mightier than the sword,
Yes.
I think goes back to that, when the sword was a symbol of communication. There's lots of symbolism that goes with the sword, but it cuts through the air. It's very precise, and the more that you can get better at communicating. And some of the other elements are fire, for example. So that's fire can warm our food and make us warm, but it can also burn us. Fire can forge. Fire can forge the sword, but it can also destroy our home. So fire, the element itself, we think about a discipline, and you can take it too far and become a disciplinarian. That's burning people around you. Or you can use it for your business and get laser focused on what you want to accomplish and use that discipline to your advantage. So it's really trying to have harmony and balance with the elements as well.
Now, you brought up a symbol on that tarot card, or let me bring up Mickey again, because I just love the symbol. But before, I never really noticed that sort of infinity sign on the top of Mickey. Now, could you just go over what that means again for those who are just tuning in on what that means?
Yeah, so the infinity symbol, and we'll make one with a rubber band real easy, is this is the sort of the what's called a lemniscate or infinity symbol. But it's like it's operating off on 2 poles. So it's really showing you duality.
Yeah.
It should be stressful, but you should also come back around and balance yourself out and have periods that are very relaxing. I can't say that you can do that. We try to do that in every day, right? Work hard, play hard. Right. But it reminds us that that's a real thing. And it's the infinity symbol is really that, you have unlimited potential. And if you don't have unlimited potential, if you don't think that, you have more potential than you're putting out there, because your attitude is kind of the ceiling.
No, I'm just trying to sum it all together as to why the magician. I know you're a magician, you're a performer as well, but could you explain why you chose the magician as the sort of a symbol to take your clients on this journey of transformation? Why is it so important?
Well, it's important because when I work with leaders, a big issue with leaders and a lot of people is egotism. So it's really about how they're, a lot of leaders who are uninitiated into the true elements of leadership are using their employees to get ahead. They're
Right.
using people's ideas, and they're not giving people the recognition. I mean, 70% of employees are disengaged, according to Gallup as well. Number one thing that can drive employees that employees say is recognition. So, it's all about understanding which archetype is going to be best, but really why the magician is that the magician is not the hero, because
Right.
a leader is not a hero.
Yeah.
And I just want that to sink in for the audience, because a leader is to make either your employees or in business as well, your customers the hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. I had always looked at, I mean, the tarot card can kind of be a little taken in the wrong way sometimes. Am I
Yes.
correct? But
Yeah.
at least correct me if I'm wrong, but I always thought that magician was on his own journey for transformation, not to change the things around him, but he too can change into something different, something better than what
Well,
he.
yes, there's always a point in everyone's life where a quest occurs, or you
Yes.
feel called to take a quest. And if anything, you were seeking something. You're seeking more to what you have, whatever it happens to be. It could be, more opportunity. It could be you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you want to change. And so everyone kind of gets called. So that magician energy kind of shows up. And sometimes that's that archetype, is that, it starts to kind of push us or pull us. And then we then seek initiation.
Yes.
We seek to learn from the masters. We don't automatically do that. When you get into something, if your ego's really high, you're probably not looking at things as a student. But there's comes a point in everyone's life where they realize that being a student is the way forward. It's to relinquish your ego and fail, because what's happening is your ego got so high that you stopped putting yourself out there. You stopped taking risks. You stopped growing, and you hit a wall because you can't go any farther, because you need someone to help you around your own mental kind of obstacles.
I love what you're presenting, because I've kind of just had an enlightenment on, I understand what the magician is. I understand the symbol of the magician and why you use it. And initially I had, wasn't clear as to why it was important for people in the business world. But now that, having this conversation with you, and then correct me if I'm wrong, a magician begins as an apprentice, just like anyone else. And he slowly goes through this journey of becoming one day the magician or the wizard, or someone that becomes this sort of a role taker as a leader. So he takes his own journey through life. And I think it doesn't even have to be that magician, at least that symbol. But I think the magician is a very strong archetype, or for people, for even non-magicians watching today, is that if you're on this journey seeking mentorship or coaching, and I have, that's for sure, and you have, we have the same teacher and mentor, you're all looking really for your own self-transformation. Is that a summary, a pretty good idea of what you're presenting here, Braden?
That's 100% what's happening. And in fact, a mentor helps us with our illusions. So one of those illusions is that they help us with is what I believe is, because your mentor has maybe gone down a path that has a unique perspective that can see things a little bit differently, because we talked earlier about the blind spot. Well, the fact that my senses are good enough for me to grab the cup and drink it,
yes,
is good, but it doesn't have to be that. But if I don't have good eyesight, right, then I miss the cup, or the cup gets knocked over. And our mentors help us with that. And we all make assumptions, and those What we saw and what we believe put together make those illusions. And what our mentors do is they help us break through those illusions. For example, the illusion that I need glasses to see. I don't.
Yes.
In fact, there are no lenses inside the glasses.
Yes.
In fact, that there's anything inside the cup, there isn't. The fact that it's an illusion that the cup even exists, it doesn't exist. All is illusion. And what mentors do is they guide us and help us let go of our illusions. That's what they do.
That's wonderful. Well said, Braden. And, it just summarizes everything that, this magician archetype is, especially when you have someone who is at a different level, such as Jeff McBride, for example. A lot of us do have these illusions. I know I have. And the learning curve and my mistakes have lessened because you had someone there to guide you through this transformation or this journey of finding your better self, whether it's in magic or not. And I think that is a great analogy. Micah says, he's given his virtual applause to you.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
And Micah's a great guy, and I know that he too, we often talk about magic, and he's a great magician, and I think he would definitely love this presentation that you're giving out. Now, before I forget, Braden, I know we talked about your website, and that now that we've kind of given a glimpse of what you do and what you offer and what your philosophy is on at least the magician archetype, is there a place that people can find you and learn a little bit more if they wanted to explore this sort of presentation you have?
Yes, absolutely. Please go to, you can connect with me here on Facebook, but if you're really interested in the business stuff, find me on LinkedIn at Braden Daniels. Just put in Braden Daniels and find me on LinkedIn. And you can also, for your guests here, if they go to a special website I've set up, the number 3 sirens, there it is on the screen. Perfect. So if you go to the number 3 sirens.leadlikeamagician.com, you're going to have access to a whole PDF on fear and leadership, because the sirens are actually, we can talk a little bit about the mythology of the sirens from Greek mythology. And also sirens are warning signs. But yeah, the sirens in Greek mythology, I go into those in a little bit detail about how the 3 sirens represent temptation, risk, and desire. And those same 3 things show up for us in our bodies as fear. Because they show up as procrastination. That's 1. They show up as perfectionism. That's 2. And they show up as self-criticism. That's 3. And those are the sirens. So learn more about them there. 3sirens.leadlikeamagician.com.
So everyone, please check out 3sirens.leadlikeamagician.com for, is it a PDF you said that they can download? Wonderful. What I love, Braden, is that you use, because I love myths and legends and folklore. It's great that you use these visual representations, because as for me, it allows me to absorb the information easier when you have these visual representations. But on that note, I think, this sort of old world of history and symbols, I think, the knowledge is very rich. And I think for some reason, I get the impression that perhaps the magician was really meant to teach us more than, what it looks like or a playing card. It's so much more than just a guy in a wand and these, obscure symbols. And that's what I'm getting today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about, the magician was really a member of the community that was very valuable and very important, because not all illusions are bad illusions. We have positive illusions in our life, and we need to respect and honor those. But a magician would help us with that. There are magician figures in almost every culture. In fact, I probably can take the word almost out. In every culture, there are magician figures. There are shamans in Siberia. There are shamans in Central America. We obviously have Native American medicine men and women. So, there wasn't a shaman's convention back in the day, so that's an archetype. That's an archetype that's needed for some reason. It is absolutely needed. And Chris, if you just take 2 seconds and toss up that diagram with this path, people can learn more about this from me. But yeah, there's a path of initiation to legacy. So there's a point of initiation, whether it's in leadership or magic or any art form or any business or any endeavor in life. There's initiation. Then you go through those stages: the neophyte, the experimenter, the visionary, the virtuoso, and finally into the legacy. And it starts all back over again because your legacy initiates other people. Chris, I mean, think about Eugene Berger's legacy, how that has initiated Jeff when he was seeking, and then how he has now initiated other people, will initiate people into the magical arts, because that's what we do and that's what's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, you brought up a great topic here, the role of a magician. I think for the most part, people not in the know, or at least, any common person or even magicians at that, believe that, a magician is a performer, at least in this day and age. But what they don't realize is that the history of magic or of being a magician went beyond just performing on the stage. They were healers of a community or a tribe. And whether you subscribe to the idea of whether magic was real or not, I don't think that's important at all. I think it was the feeling that this sort of security or the confidence that they gave to promote healing. And I think that's what the essence of magic is, at least for me. And from what you're doing with your presentation, it also touches on another aspect of magic. It is the journey, is it not? And I think even as a magician, we all go through a journey, from being a trickster on to the sorcerer, to the sage, to the oracle. And so, what I love, Braden, you do have something here, this other chart that I wanted to go over before I go over anything else, but this right here, magical powers. You mentioned this before. Now, could you give us a brief explanation of what this is?
Absolutely. So magicians out there will understand what these are. These are the different effects that we perform. We sort of classify to understand, where, whether we're doing an appearance, a control, a prediction, all those things. But you can actually apply this to your life, and you can also apply it to your business. So the question could be, what do you need to make appear in your business or your life? What do you need to make disappear? What needs to go away and just not come back, right? And then a few others, and you can take it off there. Yeah, a few others. Restore. What has been lost in your company culture, in your life, that you need to go back and find and restore and bring back. Right. What relic of the past is really important? Levitation. The magicians make things float. And what burden can you take off of others? These are deep questions.
So, Braden, I just have to say, I'm getting this sort of motivation and inspiration just by hearing you talk about these things, because these are things I relate to as a performer of the magical arts. Now, just to recap for people who are just tuning in, you do offer mentorship, and that is what you do as far as these presentations. You do that on an individual and also on a corporate basis. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, absolutely. So I do workshops. I speak for companies. We're doing a lot of virtual stuff now. So if you need something for your business, whether it's a virtual keynote or you just want to kind of inspire the team to think differently and have some magic involved with that, and talk about the magician archetypes and really empower your team. I mean, what what leader doesn't want their team a little more empowered? That's what I do. So, and then I also do individual mentorship for two reasons. Either one, you want to learn more about the elements, whether it's communication, discipline, introspection, mentorship, or you have a special project you want to work on. I can help you with that. I can help be that blind spot mirror kind of thing.
I'm going to pull up your website here, Braden. It's called leadlikeamagician.com. Your presentation certainly is empowering, and I just loved, how we could discuss what that magician symbol means and why it is so important. And talking to you today, I hope people come out a little bit more empowered, or at least inspired, and when they are at least in the least bit look at that symbol and see so much more than what it is, because there's a lot of symbols in there, and it's great, especially for me being a magician. I overlooked a lot, and I thank you for that. Also, Braden, people could find you on Facebook, so if you're out on Facebook, give Braden a follow, and if you have any questions, please reach out to him. And also, you're on Instagram. Am I correct?
Yes, and you can also find me on LinkedIn as well.
On LinkedIn as well. And you did mention, Braden, before we start summing it up here, that you were going to do some projects in the future. Is there anything that we can expect from you, in the next couple months here?
Yes, well, there's a lot going on. The website is coming along, but what you can look for, and when you sign up on the website, you're going to be the first to know about my e-courses, where I go into all of the stuff that Chris and I talked about today and more. There's going to be 3 different e-courses that you can take. It's going to be about the magical powers of leadership, which we discussed. It's going to be the magical elements of personal leadership, because, if you got out of bed this morning, you had to lead you. So leadership starts with you. You have to lead yourself first, right? And so that's the second one. And then the third one is the journey. Chris had popped up the graph there, but it's really understanding, where are you at on your journey of leadership? Are you newly planted and want to get to the experimenter phase? Are you an experimenter and want to get to visionary? Or do you want to get to virtuoso? How do you become a visionary? How do you become a virtuoso? I'm going to unpack all of that and empower you through those.
Well, thank you so much, Braden. It has been enlightening to hear you talk, and also to have you as the first guest on Theory and Philosophy. It's nice and refreshing to have these more deeper discussions into magic and what it all means, what all these symbols mean. And I think today I come out a little bit more enlightened, a little bit more empowered, and inspiring. And in fact, Kim Daniels here, very inspiring. True innovator, absolutely. He did a wonderful job. Braden, now before we close out here on our show, at this point, everything is kind of in flux and flowing. So I wanted to try something different with you.
Yes.
Something that I've never done before.
Yes.
Just to give everyone out there a background, and as you as well, I have 10 questions for you that you could answer in the very shortest forms, short and simple, but to give you a background on where they all came from. A great Victorian poet in the 19th century by the name of Marcel Proust had inspired these questions, and they were mainly given to celebrities of the time, and it was called the Confession album. In fact, it was a parlor game, which is somewhat appropriate. And it was really just a confession to these answers. No right answers, but it gives us, the viewer, an idea of what your insights are. So I would appreciate if you participated in these questions, Braden. Is that okay?
That is fine. And, it's also good if the audience participates as well, how they might answer.
I promise you they won't be hard. But before we get in that, I did make a little video clip before we get into those questions to give you time to think. But ladies and gentlemen, we now go into this whole idea of these questions. In fact, what I forgot to mention was these questions were actually made famous by James Lipton of Inside the Actors Studio. But here I apply them to magic. And this is in honor of him because I was a huge fan. So check this out. And when we get back, we ask the questions. And Braden, so I've coined them the Lipton questions in honor of James Lipton. And so we begin our first question, Braden, with the question of what is your favorite magic word?
Ooh, this is these are tough already out of the gate. Audience.
And that's your favorite magic philosophy.
Yeah, what is my favorite magic word? Try.
What is your least favorite magic word?
Oh, trick. Yeah, we don't do tricks, we do magic.
Very good. What turns you on in magic?
I think seeing someone who really puts the work in, who really takes the time to think about what they're doing. The great example of that, and for everyone watching, please go see Derek Delgadio's In and of Itself. It's on Hulu right now. So get Hulu, watch In and of Itself, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. Enough said.
Yes, enough said about that. That's a wonderful film. Next question, Braden. What turns you off in magic?
I think just people not taking the not putting the respect into what it is. I mean, there are it's easy to throw things out. Like it's easy to say like, hey, this is this is childish. And the downside of that is that or what that really shines a light on is the fact that we have taken we have gone our path and not have brought wonder with us, did not bring fun along the way. So when they see things that are quote unquote childish, which what are they saying? They're things that are creative. They're things that are making us laugh. They're things that are really important to think about, even though and that we take for granted. There's those three things, and we've rendered them kind of pointless. And what I think is important about bringing this to business or leadership or your team is to bring that fun back in. And so I think that's the issue. Is it's not looked at as fun. It's looked at it as frivolous. And I'd like to change that.
Thank you. Next question, Braden. What sound or noise in magic do you love?
Probably the one I gave you, which was the ooh, this is the Micah. Thank you. We went meta there, Micah. That was great. Yeah, the ooh, I think, yes. Because that's the moment of astonishment. That's the aha moment for an audience, and we get to give that to people. This aha moment when we do our job well.
And what sound or noise in magic do you hate?
Oh, geez. Cringing. Yeah. I mean, if you've ever performed, I know I have. I've made some mistakes on the stage, and it's people cringe, and when 5 people cringe in a room, you know it, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? That's not the emotive response we want. So that would be it.
what is your favorite cuss word?
My favorite cuss word. Oh, well, my wife says that the S word is not a good word. So, I guess the D word. I guess. Darn it. Let's say that. We got kids watching.
Well said. Well said. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Wow, what profession other than my own would I like to attempt? Professional wrestling.
Ah, well said. And what profession would you not like to do?
Well, I've done a lot of things. I mean, I worked on a farm for quite a long time, so I've done a lot of things like that. I would say anything with where you had to. I love helping animals, but I don't think I could do surgery on an animal. I think that would be, and people do that every day, and we're very appreciative of that. But I don't think I could do that.
And finally, Braden, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
This is how about come on in?
Well said. Bravo. Bravo. These are the questions that James Lipton inspired from Marcel Proust from the 19th century. And hopefully, these questions were meant to be answered throughout a person's life and not just one time. So at some point, on segueing into that, we hope that you can answer these later on down the road once again, and we could kind of compare, what your answers, if they did change, Braden. Braden, it has been a pleasure to have you here. As customary to Faust and Company in the shows, I have to ask you, would it be possible for you to close out our show with at least a positive message or note to the audience?
Yes. I think if you could take this away, your life stands for something. What does it stand for? Take that question away.
Braden, thank you so much. It has been an honor to have you here. You have made theory and philosophy episode a very fun episode for me, and nonetheless very enlightening. And thank you so much for inspiring us all and starting this episode off on a wonderful note.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bravo, bravo. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Herren as Faust. This is Braden Daniels, and we will see you again on Theory and Philosophy episode at Faust and Company. Good night, everyone.